Up here at the back part of the beach, you can see kind of an interesting feature too. You see this kind of peaked area right here, and then if you continue towards the water, the boulders slope down to the beach and they get a little bit smaller. What this represents is this is a seawall, the development of a seawall, and the water does that. So you think about the size of those boulders and the waves tossing those up here. That's a substantial amount of energy that is required to do that. And like I said, in the winter time when we get nor'easters, you'll come here and you'll hear these boulders clonking around into each other and realize that they're actually moving, that this is a dynamic system and it's not static. I'm going to take you over and show you Seawall Beach. It's on the other side of the island. It'll take a little while to get there, but you had the advantage of just having to wait. So I'm going to go back up to the car and we'll head off to the next stop. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this as well, and I'm afraid the wind's going to blow it away. But where we've been most of the day is over on this side of the island. And we just traveled up this way across the bottom here and came through Northeast Harbor and went up along the edge of Somme Sound. So we're staying right here at this particular point in time. And what I want you to see here is, if you look up or north, this is almost due north, and we travel down to the south, there's a whole sequence of mountains on the opposite side of this bay, Somme Sound, and it continues down, and we go all the way down to the south. What you'll run into is the ocean. Now, a little bit of explanation. Behind me, there's a mountain range just like the one that I'm videoing right now. So there's this long skinny bay that we have in between two mountain ranges. And when I talked a little bit about the geography of the area back at Colby, I talked about it looked like someone had taken their fingers and scratched it down Mount Desert Island. And this is the biggest finger scratch right here. This is Somme Sound. It's the only fjord, and fjord is a Norwegian word. It's the only fjord on the east coast of the United States. Essentially, what happened is the glacier carved down through here and pushed the land down by its increase in mass. And as it carved below sea level. And then, when the ice melted, sea level rose, the water filled the bay. And ultimately formed this area that we recognize as Somme Sound. And look at the signage here. It talks about a seawater bay and one of the few U.S. fjords, or another word is sometimes called in the United States a fjord, F-J-A-R-D. You might run into that word as well. When you take a look at it, you see that it's really deep in the water in between here, and it almost divides Mount Desert Island in half. There's no real good places other than this particular spot to see most of the area that surrounds Somme Sound, because most of it is owned by private individuals and their access is limited. Though if you climb the mountains on the other side, you may get visibility down north-south through the fjord. So that might be an opportunity for you to take sometime in the future. We're going to head over now to Seawall Beach, and if I don't run out of daylight, we're going to go to exposure of the Ellsworth Formation, and that'll be pretty much the whole trip. You'll get some bonus geology today because I came out here for 2 days, though it'll all be compressed because you didn't have to actually drive between the stops and drive between Waterville and Mount Desert Island. So next time I see you, we'll be at Seawall Beach. Well, earlier in this expedition, I told you that we wouldn't get to see any rocks of the Cranberry Island Formation. But then I realized I had plenty of time, and since I came out to Acadia again, I decided I'd come over here to Seawall Beach. I'll show you the seawall in a minute, but I really wanted to show you over here rocks of the Cranberry Island Formation. And Cranberry Island Formation has 3 different groups in it, or 3 different rock types, and this is the one that's exposed on Mount Desert Island. It's an awesome example of this particular rock type, and I'm going to get closer and I'll use my finger to point out things, but this rock is a volcanic tuff, and tuff is a material that it's actually airfall. A volcano erupts and blows material up into the air. Sometimes it's still in a liquid form when it hits the ground. Sometimes it's cooled, but it's still soft. So when it piles up, the pieces in there, if they're soft, they sort of smush together. Now, I got to walk over there, so it may take me a little bit of time to do that, but in the process, we can look at some of the rocks here. Like, this is a really good example, a piece here. You can see there's a fragment. Of course, you can't because my finger, the shadow's in the way, but you can see there's a fragment in here. That was a piece of material tossed up in the air. There's other pieces as well. And we get over here, these show up really nicely. You can see all the essentially pieces of cinders and volcanic bombs that were tossed up into the air and ultimately came down to form this particular rock that we got exposed here on the very southwest tip of Mount Desert Island. And there's some places where there's really good examples of this. If you look at the rock, there's one, now my shadow's in the way, right there. You can see that. There's a bigger piece up here. It probably at one time was pumice tossed up in the air, and then as time has gone on, there's a really big piece right there that you can see. And if you actually get down and take a look at it, it really is this kind of very fine-grained or glassy material that's been tossed up into the air. Felsic material, came out of volcanoes way early in the history of Mount Desert Island. I'm trying to see if I can find, you actually can see here the little vesicles in the rocks like would find in pumice. There's some really interesting pieces in here. You see the irregular outline of these things. There's another little one, bunch of small pieces in there. There's a bigger piece. It's actually got some flow lines in it. I saw a nice piece when I was walking over here. I don't know if I can find it again.